Patriots lose in overtime despite some late-game heroics from Drake Maye. We'll examine here on Patscast. Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Good to be with you from Nashville, Tennessee. Tough 20-17 overtime loss for the New England Patriots today, but plenty to still be excited about coming out of that game, particularly with Drake Maye. And look, there's plenty to criticize from Drake Maye's performance today, which I'll get to in a moment, but it is nice to have a quarterback that can lead the team down the field late in the game in those clutch situations. And we saw with time running out in regulation just exactly what Drake Maye can do out there. Probably one of the longest NFL plays I've ever seen, scrambling around. Really was impressed by his decision not to scramble in that situation where it seemed like he had plenty of opportunities to do so, but really extending the play with his legs. And just before he got taken down, heaved it up to Ramondre Stevenson for the game-tying touchdown with no time left on the clock. And then, of course, went to overtime and the Patriots lost the game. But really impressive job by Drake Maye, who did not have the best game today. Went 29 of 41 passing for 206 yards, threw one touchdown pass at the end of the fourth quarter there to Stevenson, but also had two interceptions, took 4 sacks for 21 yards total, and also once again led the Patriots in rushing with 95 yards on the ground from the quarterback alone, which it's exciting that we have a quarterback that can do that. Drake Maye's actually led the team in rushing 3 of his 4 starts. In that one game he didn't. He was pretty close. But really the story of the game, Patriots, sorry to say it, they are a soft football team. What determines a soft football team? You can't run the ball and you can't stop the run. And that was the story once again today. And this game really should have never been that close. And I'm not just talking about the clutch touchdown at the end from Maye to Stevenson. The Titans, I don't know what they were doing all game. Similar story to what we saw with the Jets last week, where they just can't help themselves. They know they can run the ball at will against that Patriots defense, and instead they still decide to throw the ball 33 times, which Mason Rudolph did, had 240 yards. Rudolph's a good quarterback. Like he's as good of a backup as you could possibly have out there, maybe even better than Jacoby Brissett. He had a solid game overall, but again, I don't know why the Titans threw the ball 30 plus times. They did rush it 39 times, but a lot of those carries came in overtime when the coaching finally figured out, hey, we can just run it down their throats, and the Patriots defense really cannot stop us. And just watching it in person, you think, okay, they hand the ball off to Pollard, the defense, they're all in the right position. This is going to be a no gain or a loss for yards. And somehow Pollard is able to break through for 3, 4, 5 yards. And that's just been this Patriots soft defense over the last 1.5 months, is they just can't stop the run. They can't even stop the run when they're positioned well to stop the run. And that was the story. The Tennessee Titans, 167 yards rushing, another game where the Patriots are giving up 160 plus yards on the ground. And that's just not going to win in the National Football League. You cannot win games by allowing really more than 100 yards rushing. Certainly less, 167 yards. And again, they've had games where they've given up 170, 180, almost 190 yards on the ground so far this season. And they just handed the ball off to Tony Pollard in that overtime period. That's how the Titans were able to get downfield. Credit to the Patriots defense for stopping them short of the end zone, so they at least had a shot to win that game. But ultimately, this defense needs to improve. And yeah, I know you don't have Juwan Bentley out there. Jelani Tavai, though, seems to be really the only guy in the middle of the field on defense that is playing worth a damn. And I thought Tavai had a pretty good game today, but the rest of that defense really could not stop the run and really couldn't stop that short middle portion of the field, which has also been a problem for the Patriots all season long defensively. Just stopping those check down throws to Pollard. I mean, he had a good game receiving himself, 3 catches for 26 yards. They were really going to lunch, not just on the ground, but with some of those short throws up the middle. And Patriots defense couldn't do a damn thing the whole time. And ultimately the story and the reason why they lost this game, Drake Maye, of course, in the overtime period, took a shot, which I'm glad he did. I'm glad the offense took a shot there with just a little over 2 minutes left in the overtime period. I think we were looking at a potential tie. This really was a bottom of the barrel game. I thought both teams deserved to end in a tie, but really thought the Patriots might come away with this one after seeing what Drake Maye did in that final play of the game. But Maye acknowledged after the game that he just made a dumb decision on that deep throw that was ultimately intercepted by Hooker, his second interception of the game. And look, you got to be a little bit critical of Maye coming out of this one. I thought he was scrambling pretty good with his legs in the first half, but really didn't go to his legs much in the second half until the very end of the game on that game-tying drive. And then he certainly made some plays with his legs there. But also, he didn't really protect himself very well. I was sitting there in the stands yelling, slide, slide, slide. And I think he slid once the entire game. Took contact, even to his helmet, coming off of a concussion. You know he's probably going to get chewed out by Drake Maye for doing that. Needs to protect himself better. And then both of his interceptions, just poor decisions altogether. There was, of course, the one that clinched the game for Tennessee late, intercepted by Hooker. Maye, like I said, acknowledged that it was a mistake. He was throwing into the wind, didn't throw it deep enough. It looks like he did have Booty there. I think it was Booty on that play, which could have been a potential game winner, but underthrew it, didn't see Hooker there, and he didn't see Hooker early in the game when he threw that pretty bad interception that was intended for Pop Douglas. Not great to see. So Patriots, Drake Maye, yeah, the reason they're in these games, the reason they're able to generate offense is solely on Drake Maye. Not a lot of open receivers. We know the separation issues that they've been having all season long, really missing that true X number one guy that Patriots need to have defenses pay attention to. But, I think Maye, for the most part, took what the defense gave him, but he also forced it, particularly on that last play of the game. But overall, Drake Maye, it's good to have a quarterback that is athletic, that can extend plays with his legs and make those clutch throws like he did on that final play of regulation. But really the reason the Patriots struggled offensively is they couldn't run the ball at all. On actual designed run plays, they actually only carried the ball 12 times, which they probably should have done it less considering how little they were able to generate on the ground. Ramondre Stevenson, 10 carries for just 16 yards. So averaging just a little over a yard per carry. JaMychal Hasty had one for no gain, and Antonio Gibson, who really didn't do much this game, had one carry and lost a yard. So they did have 110 yards on the ground total, but of course, 95 of those yards came from Drake Maye, and you're just not going to win in the National Football League if you can't run the ball. And this strategy that the Patriots went into the season with, the reason they were able to win on the road against Cincinnati week 1 is because they were able to rely on the ground game. They were able to take an early lead and control time of possession and win the game that way. But as of right now, I think the pass blocking is pretty good. Drake Maye had a ton of time to throw the ball most of the game. Even on a few of the sacks that he took, he was just holding on to the ball too long. Pass protection is a night and day difference from what it was a month ago. So you really have to give the offensive line a lot of credit there. Where they don't deserve credit is run blocking. Once again, Ramondre Stevenson, 10 carries for 16 yards, only 15 yards on the ground total on design run plays. You're just not going to win that way. And Patriots can't stop the run. They can't run the ball. And have they been able to do that the last month or so, we might be looking at maybe not a 500 team, but they probably would have a couple more wins in there. But that's just the story of this team, and they are a soft football team. That's what Drake Maye called them out for a couple of weeks ago, and he got a lot of heat from that. The players responded against the Jets, but even there, they weren't able to run the ball as well as they should, and had the Jets run it down their throat like the Titans did the Patriots in overtime and in the fourth quarter, I think the Titans could have won this game in a blowout victory pretty easily. But really, just two teams that are not very well coached that the Patriots went against these last couple of weeks. Patriots had plenty of opportunities to win this game, but ultimately they should have lost in a blowout, getting only 15 yards on the ground and allowing 167 yards rushing. Not going to cut it. But overall, some of the players that played well, of course, Hunter Henry, 7 receptions for 56 yards. Kendrick Bourne got him into the mix a little bit, 4 receptions for 41 yards. Stevenson, had 38 yards on 5 receptions, and Demario Douglas took him a little while to get going, but he ultimately had 7 catches on 9 targets. And then, of course, Booty, 18 yards off of 2 receptions. And, defensively, I mean, Patriots have good DBs. I thought Jonathan Jones could have played a little bit better. Gave up that big touchdown that gave Tennessee the lead with just a couple minutes left in the game before the Patriots tied it up. Calvin Ridley led the Titans in receiving 5 catches for 73 yards. How much of those were Christian Gonzalez? I don't think many. Patriots, you have to see what the percentage is. I'm not sure, but I thought they ran zone defense a lot more today, at least from the eye test. And it just doesn't work. They need to run man 60, 70% of the time because those soft zones aren't working, especially if they can't defend the short middle of the field. And that's really where Calvin Ridley went to lunch in that fourth quarter, just picking the Patriots defense apart. But overall, I thought Christian Gonzalez looked great out there. Jelani Tavai had a pretty solid game. Drake Maye, I don't want to say he had a bad game because of his late game heroics there, but probably his worst game so far as a starting quarterback for the Patriots, even though we saw that clutch play and all that Drake Maye is capable of doing. 2 interceptions, 4 sacks for 21 yards, most of which were him holding onto the ball too long. But receivers, once again, weren't able to separate. There just wasn't a lot open there for Drake Maye to throw the ball to. So I don't know what the Patriots do from here. I mean, that's the thing. They have a tough game on the road against the Chicago Bears next week, and they can't run the ball. They can't defend the run. I mean, they're going to lose pretty badly to that Bears team that is on the up with Caleb Williams playing increasingly well. He's a different quarterback than the Caleb Williams we saw the first couple of weeks of the season. That's going to be a tough matchup for them. Not saying the Patriots can compete in that game, but they're going to need to be able to run the ball and defend the run if they're going to do so. And there's been no evidence so far that they're not able to do that. I really did not think it was a great game for the offensive and defensive coordinators. Gerard Mayo deserves a lot of blame for it, but DeMarcus Covington, again, some of those soft zones, getting beat, not defending the run, not great. And I think Alex Van Pelt, for the most part, lacked creativity with the play calling. And I think as the game went on, similar story to last week, Alex Van Pelt, the play calling got better. But how many times are we going to see them run the ball on first down in the first and second quarter each week? I mean, the defense knows it's coming every time. They finally ran a first down play action, I think, midway through the second quarter. And it worked out pretty well. And the truth is, the Patriots, the only way they're going to be able to compete this season if they can't run the ball is just to continue to open up the passing game for Drake Maye. He had 41 attempts, but, a couple of those came in overtime. Patriots, in order to win these games, they're just going to need Drake Maye to throw for 300 yards, and they're going to have to start with the pass and generate the run off of that instead of vice versa, which is the way the West Coast offense works. But I think Alex Van Pelt is still trying to force this wide zone West Coast offense on the Patriots, and it's not working. They tried the wide zone stuff early in the game. It looks like they basically abandoned it in the second half because it wasn't going anywhere. And if you can't keep the defense moving side to side and you can't run the football, the West Coast offense is essentially useless in today's NFL. So, they relied more on duos and the power run and that type of stuff in the second half. Still wasn't working. And you basically just have to depend on Drake Maye to make plays down the field to receivers that aren't getting open or make plays with his legs. And that's the only way the Patriots are able to generate offense at this point. So they have a long way to go. I'm not thrilled with the offensive coordinators, the defensive coordinator. I think Alex Van Pelt, when all is said and done, is going to be back in New England because he does deserve a lot of credit for the development of Drake Maye. Did a great job with that. Drake Maye was clearly ready to go earlier than most of us expected, but the play calling is an issue, and he does not have a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator. Even though he has lots of experience in that particular role, he doesn't have experience as a play caller. And Alex Van Pelt really has to improve there and stop trying to force his ideology of this West Coast offense, because the Patriots do not have the players to run that type of offense. And even the players that they extended, gave long-term contracts to this past offseason, they're not designed to run a West Coast offense. Raises the question, why didn't they look at Josh McDaniels, or why didn't they try to get Bill O'Brien to come back for a second year? I think the offense would look a lot better if one or two of those guys were calling plays. We know they wanted to give it to Nick Caley, but I think it would have been the same story with Caley. He's a West Coast guy. He's been in LA with Sean McVay. So kind of discouraging, but look, 2-7 at the very least. Patriots are probably going to get a good draft pick this year. But this is not a draft that's easily predictable. Like having the third overall pick is not that different from having the eighth overall pick. And I really hope the Patriots will consider when the time comes trading back and really stockpiling as many picks as they possibly can. That seems to be what Elliott Wolf is doing. Give him some credit for trading Matthew Judon. He's really struggling, only has, I think, 1.5 sacks so far this season, and they got a third round pick for him. So we know we're in a rebuild. We got the quarterback. They got good defensive players, many who are injured. Got to add some weapons on offense. I'm encouraged by the offensive line pass protection, but the run blocking has to get better. They need a good receiver. They need an edge rusher. Haven't been able to generate a ton of pressure. Only had 1 sack this game on Mason Rudolph. So they need an edge rusher. Travis Hunter's available. Then you got the corner and you got the wide receiver. That would be nice. But they got other holes elsewhere. We know the offensive tackles have been better, but how much can you rely on DeMontre Jacobs and Vidarian Lowe? You know, maybe Caden Wallace can be something in year 2 when he's back and healthy. But you need a tackle. You need an edge rusher. You need a wide receiver. And you probably need another defensive back, especially with the way Jonathan Jones has been playing. I think Marcus Jones has been a real pleasant surprise this season, not just as a punt returner, had a very good game there, but just as a defensive player, making tackles. But he is undersized, and we saw him going up against Garrett Wilson last week. You need another defensive back there if Jonathan Jones just isn't going to get the job done. So be interesting to see what the Patriots prioritize this offseason, but 20-17 overtime loss. Very exciting game to be at. Tennessee fans, some of the nicest fans in the league. I wouldn't say this was a very stressful environment for a visiting quarterback. About a third of the fans were Patriots fans here today. And it was very quiet most of the game up until like late in the fourth quarter and in overtime. The crowd was essentially asleep the entire time. Like it felt like a neutral site game. So be interested to see how Drake Maye plays in Chicago next week, which I think will be a much tougher environment than here in Tennessee. But going to be a lot to talk about in the coming days. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel on YouTube, and hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll be back at home starting tomorrow, and we'll be back with more Patriots coverage throughout the week.
Rookie Drake, he threw it long, fighting till the final gong. Crowd was wild in the stand, thought we had the upper hand. Cats screaming all night long, heartbreaking a victory song. So close yet we missed the mark, fumble in the final spark. Overtime, our spirits high, but Tennessee, they made us cry. Heroics then just fade away, echoes of a bitter play. Bats cast screaming the light, glory slipping out of sight. May he tried to do us proud, trapped beneath that losing crowd. Took it hard but will rise again, past cast echo in the pain. Rookie strength, he'll find his way, fight another future day. Past cast screaming the light, glory slipping out of sight. May he try to do us proud, trapped beneath that losing crowd. Fumble in the final spark. Season long we fight, we grind, leaving hurt and dreams behind. Tough overtime, it's what we face, strength and hope we must embrace. our spirits high. But Tennessee, they made us cry. Heroics then just fade away. Echoes of a bitter play. Past cast scream in the night. Glory slipping out of sight. May he dragged him to a spot, trapped beneath that losing cloud. Fumble in the final spark, trapped beneath that losing cloud. Took it hard but will rise again. Past cast echo in the pain. Rookie strength, he'll find his way. Fight another future day. Season long we fight, we grind, leaving hurt and dreams behind. Tough over time, it's what we face. Strength and hope we must embrace.